Hey guys, so overperformance on this descending cell. We got a bit of confluence there on a smaller time frame on this down leg from Ethereum. So we're looking at Ethereum Bitcoin. Should have explained that. That down leg, then a wind up that had a confluence of targets. You got your steep pullback after that target run, and then a dip down, and then a dip up to the funnel, and then we've got a wind up for an HVF. So everyone's getting ready to call it the beginning of the new uptrend. It's a first upside in a new trend now, and it needs to clear this funnel to set up a proper impulse. The concern I still have with this overall structure, so my overall structure idea is high one, low one, high two. We just tapped out on the old target. That comes from an old target from a pattern way left. Just remind you of that. Key levels of significance. There's that target and setup. The price chart will load whenever it wants to, but it's in no hurry. So that's where that line comes from. And it also was the funnel that ran into a bit of thick mud on the downside of that leg. I mean, once again, we got downside here. This was quite a fall away, and this is really flat to this. Now, I don't know if I like that. It's not good for the possibility that this could be an inversion. We do also have quite a bullish hold. That said, this is properly impulsive now and is tackling the downside funnel that was previously existing. So we've got something going on here. Let's say it clears that funnel and goes into roughly there before it turns. We're then left with a question. Is this a very flat bottomed upside setup? In other words, with that big impulse included? Or is it still potentially a risk of a downside, and this was trend change? In other words, this is trend change and it's a downside. Some of that will be determined by how high this goes right now. If it goes very close to as high as here and takes a while and stays up there a while and then comes down and doesn't come as deep as this did, in other words, this line squares up, that's no bad thing for Ethereum. But you know, the assumption is always continuation generally, and the macro trend for Ethereum is, you don't need reminding, but is up against Bitcoin. But it doesn't mean it's all one way. Here's a period, here's a period, and you've got to watch that. And this particular setup, I don't like how its structure set out. It's not nearly as overridingly optimistically set up just because of that low. I don't like that wick low. That said, when you look at it on the bigger time frames, it doesn't look so bad. In other words, that just looks like a hammer and the bodies didn't go as low. So maybe I'm just being slow to accept this as an upside again. And yeah, I may just wait and see where the third high is and how it all sets up, rather than get straight back in and chase that spike. I would like to see where it makes a low is quite steeply up for its third low, and this high to be fairly high to re-establish the bullishness. What we have is what I'd call low slung nature of the setup. In other words, if you look at the fib, let's go down to the 45-minute again. If you look at the fib here, we want ideally the funnel area to be between the 50 and the 61.8, and that isn't going to happen because this H2 was too low and it fell away too deep. So this is going to rally. It may get to the 38.2 to the 50 zone in this green zone, or it runs straight from here, and then that is your H3 and L3, and this is now your run. And then it could run all the way. But then it's been a very low slung lows. That secondary low is very, very low, and it's played a deceptive game, in which case that is your low 3 right there. And that was your high 3. It is an option, and we're breaking from exceedingly deep. So in this game of continuation, is this a low slung setup? And you can see this funnel right here, really low. It's kind of on the 23.6, your midpoint, if it was like that. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, it's okay. There's a program for learning how and why. So lots of lines on here, but if we drop down just into the lined area and just get that last bit, it could be that that is a very low slung primer setup for the eventual break, but we're already seeing this dying in the funnel here after having made a pop up. So it's a little bit indecisive, and I think the safest thing is, when in doubt, leave it out. I'm going to wait and see. I don't need to buy the first 5%. I need greater clarity and a high performance. That one little rip looks great, but when you look at the context of other previous little rips, you can see, you know, they stop. That had continuation in it, but we've also had big rips to the downside. So it'll be interesting to see how this third impulse goes. Is that it, with a high 3 and a low 3, and we're already in the break? Or will it work its way up to a higher 3 somewhere in this green zone, which is sub the 50% level? Will it go as high as the 50% level and come close to matching that, and then put in a very moderated low in? That would be the best case scenario for the bullish run. So indecisive right now. While most people will be on bull bias and assuming continuation and upside, I would say the structure and the pattern of this, while we are probably in the process of an up leg, and that's good enough for most people to chase in long, I don't subscribe to that, because unless you're really day trading and hopping in and out all the time, it's much better to get these big 45-minute chart decisions right than trying to catch every little 5-10 minute time frame move. Will we clear this funnel is the question. Will we get up to deep into this towards the 50% level, and how deep will the pullback be will determine how bullish we should be getting. If it then battles on and it only really just gets into the lower end of the green and then churns and hangs around here and then sells off very steep, brutally down, and we get a third very flat bottom somewhere here and then a bear flag like rally like that, get ready for a sell-off to the downside. It could happen. It could happen. But to 50-50 for me, slightly bullish, slightly more to the bullish side, but really didn't like that big sell-off that occurred here. Not a bit. And it took a while deciding it was going to leave these areas. It needed a wind up and a pop, which is now coming in probably with the US market. Okay, that's my musings. Not clear enough for me to be chasing. You don't have to be the first money into the trade. And let's see, and let's reduce the risk of that possibility of a downside. That's my take. The thrashers that are in and out will already be chasing, and if you were a chaser, you should have climbed on the HVF break there and run it to the funnel, and you would have closed in the funnel and you would have taken that. To me, that's not worth it on a 15-minute time frame, and you don't know how much further it'll go or at what rate. That's me done. Enjoy the clip.